I've long believed, and I still believe this, that for Bitcoin to win, the US dollar doesn't have to lose, per se. It's not a binary sort of decision, right? Where it's either everybody uses Bitcoin or everybody uses the US dollar and neither can coexist. I think they can coexist quite well, actually. The question at this point is, as Stronghold Digital Mining shareholders, one of the key variables that we always look at is the price of Bitcoin in conjunction with the network hash rate, because that in turn is going to provide us with a Bitcoin priced in dollars per megawatt hour, which is an easier comparison for us when we look at grid pricing and we see what the price, the prices happen to be in our zones of the PJM grid, and then we could compare that number to what Bitcoin priced in dollars per megawatt hour happens to be. And so from an economic standpoint, right, whichever of those two revenue inputs makes the most sense to focus on is what we can do. So I'm incredibly encouraged by the fact that there are these broader macroeconomic trends that I believe at least act as tailwinds for us, right? They really kind of help us out, because the potential exists, I think, now more so than maybe in the last 12 months or so. I think there is a real opportunity for there to be once again the beginnings of a sustained rise in the price of Bitcoin. Now, if you've listened to me or read some of the things I've written in the past, you'll know that I'm not a prognosticator of Bitcoin prices, nor am I a prognosticator really of anything, because I think it's kind of tricky to make those types of predictions. See, what I prefer to do is to look at the fundamentals of a company like Stronghold Digital Mining, right? And I look at the economics of how we actually make money. And that's not really a prediction, that's just reality. So if, for example, grid pricing is much more favorable and advantageous for us, then great, we can actually generate electricity, sell that electricity to the grid and make money, okay? If it is more economically advantageous for us to instead take the electricity we're creating, right, that we're generating at our two power plants, Scrubgrass and Panther Creek, and to turn around and use that electricity to mine Bitcoin, if that makes more economic sense, then we could do that. No prognostication necessary. It's just based on the reality of the situation at any given point in time. If, by contrast, for example, if grid prices happen to be on the lower side of things, right, maybe even lower than our cost to produce electricity, what we can do as well is just buy or import that power from the grid, use that cheaper electricity to, you guessed it, mine Bitcoin, if the economics of doing so makes sense. So I am encouraged by the fact that the price of Bitcoin is going up. I'm encouraged by the fact that there are some macroeconomic variables that are kind of going in our direction. But ultimately, I'm not really about prognosticating the price of Bitcoin, right? I'm more about focusing on the things that we do have control over. Our operating expenses, our ability to keep our data centers online, our ability, right, to mitigate our risks associated with planned downtimes and when to schedule those and how to best optimize those downtimes to coincide, right, during times when perhaps grid pricing is at its lowest. So we're not potentially missing out on any opportunities to sell electricity into the grid, but instead can just be importing that cheaper electricity to mine Bitcoin. So there's a lot that we have control over that we're focusing on, right? And we see that when we review the filings, the publicly made available filings, right, that the company provides to the SEC. We see that in press releases, and we of course see that when we observe all the raw data that impacts our revenue. So, for example, I just created, right, a homemade dashboard at designer.com. A lot of y'all know about this because you visited and you see me mention it. And I did that because, again, it's not about prognosticating or guessing or throwing darts. It's more about, hey, look, we've got a couple of different ways to make money here. Why don't we just look at the reality of what those numbers look like and make decisions based on the reality of what makes the most economic sense? So that's what I love about this business, because we have a lot of different ways to make money. It's not just about, hey, great, Bitcoin's going up in price. Wow, let's really pray that that continues to happen because that's the only thing we know how to do. You know what I mean? And that's certainly, it's a big part of our business, but it's not the only part of our business. So I'm very encouraged on day 13 that we're moving in the right direction. Now, an 8K did come out today. And of course, when I saw that, naturally, given everything that's been going on, in the market lately, my immediate concern is, oh my gosh, am I going to open this and discover that, we sort of got entangled in one of these, banks that ostensibly, went bust, although it seems as though all depositors are going to be made whole, so that's good. Well, good or not so good, depending on your perspective, right? But hey, look, I'm the kind of guy that says, look, hey, if I wish no ill on anyone, so if somebody got pinched in that situation, I'm grateful that they were able to get their money out. That being said, this 8K just had to do with the appointment of an independent director, and that's a wonderful thing. So nothing to do with our power plants, nothing to do with anything substantive in terms of like, oh my gosh, a data center's down or our funds are frozen or anything weird like that. Very positive development, so that's awesome. What we're still counting down towards is the day when an announcement comes out saying, okay, we're going to be having our investor presentation on such and such a date at such and such a time. And until then, we're going to keep creating some content, generating some excitement. I'm certainly excited. As we head in towards this investor presentation, we're going to learn about what happened. Finally, what happened in Q4 2022? I think we know what happened, right? But let's hear it straight from the proverbial horse's mouth. What happened in Q4 2022, especially at the very end of that quarter, right? Late December. We really played such a constructive role in stabilizing the PJM grid, and in so doing, we generated I believe, some very healthy revenue. But let's get the official rendition of what happened. I'm really excited to hear about that. I think we're all incredibly excited as well to hear about what's going on right now. We're practically at the end of Q1 2023. Let's get some context and color as to how we're managing our operations, how things are going, and what we see, ahead of us as we then, get into Q2 2023. I'm really excited. Things are going great. Our stock was up, like 18% today? I'm not complaining. One day at a time. All right, see you tomorrow.